Hi, my name is Uzair Shahab. I am with Nobles in support of the FAA SCDS program, here to present our V4 updates. So for the agenda for this forum will consist of Swift portal subscription updates, policy language clarification, operational cost management, and the TBFM 4.15 updates. So first we'll be discussing the subscription updates. Sorry. So the Swift portal now provides a streamlined and a more modern user experience by providing expedient subscription approvals. So the service access agreements have been migrated directly into the Swift portal, and we can now provide automatic subscription approvals. Users will no longer need to visit a separate SAA portal. So service access agreements will now automatically be approved, providing a true self-service experience. So on this slide, on the left-hand side, there's a subscription column users can navigate to. In addition, you will get email notifications and reminders if you need to visit the Swift portal to re-sign expired access agreements. As a reminder, access agreements do expire after 1 year, and now we have a very simple renewal process, which we hope helps. Our next section is the policy language clarification. So the term NAS impacting, which will be replacing the term operational. So data obtained via Swim Cloud distribution service is not intended for NAS impacting usage. The revision to the term operational was done because a lot of consumers of SCDS do have business use cases, and business use cases are perfectly acceptable. So selling and providing asks based on SCDS data is a valid usage of SCDS data. However, SCDS data is not intended to be used as the sole source for any aviation safety related law enforcement or judicial activity that relies on the availability, validity, timeliness, or accuracy of data obtained via SCDS. Okay, so SCDS data usage continued. The FAA takes no responsibility for the accuracy, validity, or completeness of data obtained from SCDS. As such, it is your responsibility to notify your consumers of planned and unplanned outages and acceptable use of data obtained by SCDS. So moving on to operational cost management. As users know, SCDS is a free service provided, so SWIM provides a robust data for public users free to consume, but the FAA does pay for the data egress, storage, maintenance, and portal support. So with the increase in costs as well as new FAA budget constraints, we continue to provide quality support to users, but that means reducing costs. So to continue to provide users with quality service, the FAA would like to get users on board with cost-saving measures, which we will discuss in the next few slides. So starting with data compression. The data compression policy, which will help reduce the operational cost by reducing internet bandwidth needs. Compressed data connections are now mandatory for SCDS operation. Consuming compressed data is the only authorized method for obtaining SCDS data products. It is users' responsibility to keep compression enabled. Users who are not currently using compressed SCDS connections will be contacted for necessary transition procedures. All right, next we'll be discussing the Java Messaging Service, or JMS. SCDS uses Solus JMS technology to provide messaging to consumer queues. The JMS library provides native compression support in the consumer application. However, AMQP does not. As such, users are required to access SCDS data products using JMS-based consumer applications. That means JMS is the only authorized connection method for SCDS. Okay, so for internal redistribution, this means each subscription your organization uses costs the FAA money. And the graphic on the slide kind of depicts to different use cases. Right now, a lot of users have dev tests in ops environment within SCDS with different products or filters, which is fine. But having duplicate feeds with identical products and filters is redundant, and what we are asking users instead is to fan out on their side. So users, if you have duplicate feeds with identical product filters, we ask you duplicate those on your side after consuming the data from SCDS internally. Duplicate subscriptions within the same organization will not be permitted, and we will be reviewing these connections. Next, we will discuss the TBFM 4.15 updates for TBFM subscribers. So there will be new updates that will allow for new data in 4 new fields, as well as new data will be populated into new JMS header fields. Users can get information on this, but new release is currently scheduled for early November. You can subscribe to TBFM on the NSRR by following the link nsrr.faa.gov. So as a recap, we discussed Swift portal subscription updates, policy language clarification, operational cost management, and TBFM 4.15 updates. If there's any questions.
Yes, I do have a question. My name's Steve. I'm with Syrian, which is also known as Flight Stats. We use your data quite often, and a lot of times we need to have a testing environment just to test our libraries that are trying to consume your data. And as I'm understanding it, you're asking that we don't do that anymore with identical feeds. Will you be providing the opportunity to have maybe like reduced capacity feeds so that we can test our libraries if we have code changes?
Hi, this is Aisha. I'm gonna go ahead and help out Zara with answering questions. I am also providing SCDS support from Noblest. So to answer your question, we are asking that you create a test environment. If you need to create one that is, exactly like the environment that you have right now, and if it's something that you think that you guys can't, is this not something that you would be able to duplicate within your own organization? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we would be needing, if we have to make changes to the code that reaches out to JMS, for example, we need to have a source of that. We wouldn't necessarily need to have identical, but we would need to have something very similar to the structure of the queue that we're using, if that makes sense.
Fair enough.
It does, yeah.
Steve, good afternoon. Waldo Ford, I'm the SCS lead. Just want to bring the general concept is you understand a lot of organizations need redundant feeds of various SCDS data products. The general ask is that once you receive a feed on your side, perhaps you redistribute it as much as possible, right? In that every subscription that leaves SCDS is associated cost. If you can fan it out on your side, you help reduce overall operational costs and allow this product to continue to be provided to the public at no charge. We do have campaigns in the future where if there are certain technical issues that your organization will face in particular, we'll hopefully be able to sit down with it, or at least through community forums, solve it in a group process. So on your side, we're just asking you to consider the operational requests we're making, and we'll work out those details as we go forward.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. And this kind of dovetails with what you were talking about with regard to the bandwidth, although you addressed it in terms of compression. Is there a plan to go with more JSON data as opposed to XML in the future?
In the future, with other systems coming online, there are plans to have.
There's a potential that it could change, right? But at the moment, we don't have it actively planned.
Okay, thank you.
Waldo, there's a question in the meeting chat about when V4 and its capabilities will be released.
Oh, fair enough. So SCDS version 4, which will have the complete self-provisioning of subscriptions, will be available this Friday. It will be deployed this Thursday, so it should be available for general public use this coming Friday, the 15th. And yes, these slides will be posted in the community forum. Yes. Are there any other questions that anyone has like to bring up? They could address it to myself or if it's...
There's a new one on the meeting chat. What about people that have accounts that are not associated with an organization or company?
Well, if for individuals, for the most part, we find that you know, subscription to products isn't an issue. The duplicate data product subscriptions tend to be associated with organizations that are you know, have some operational usage of this data. So to say, for individuals, we'll find that you may be contacted in the near future because some older subscription did not have compression enabled by default. So at some point we will, as an organization, will reach out to those individuals and give you an opportunity to just resubscribe. The newer subscriptions have it enabled, data compression enabled by default. So just through issuing a new subscription, you will comply with this new policy request.
I have one more comment. Marcelo asked, they have pending subscriptions. I recommend after V4 is released to go ahead and sign your service access agreements, and that should provision your subscriptions without waiting on the pending state.
And to circle back to the compression enablement, you indicated that newer subscriptions default into that. Where's the I guess threshold on newer subscriptions? You know, how recent would a subscription be where it was enabled by default?
So anyone in the technical team have the exact...
I'm not sure I follow the question.
My understanding was that newer subscriptions have compression enablement compression enabled by default.
Yes.
Subscription, you know, created now, I presume, is considered new. Is a subscription created a year ago considered new?
So it would be by user accounts. So if your account was created, I think it was April 2022. So if your account was created after that, your subscriptions have it automatically enabled.
Okay,
but
got it.
Questions, feel free to contact the SCDS help desk, and we can walk you through, you know, are you using compression? Are you using it correctly? And we can help out.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
There's another question. When is SCDS targeted for migrating to a cloud platform? SCDS is hosted on the cloud, so I'm not sure what we're asking here.
AIM-FNS is not.
Okay.
It's still on a physical server. So just curious, in a timeline, when that occurs, and it kind of gets back, I believe, to Steve's question of the dev versus production access to these services, is will that be a one-for-one migration when, you know, I'm assuming down the road, this will be another user group meeting when that occurs, but is there anything on the near horizon that we need to be aware of?
So I would say we can certainly reach out to the office to see if there is a scheduled time for this. I don't think there's anything that we are aware of at the moment, but we will be sure to make sure to find out what that is, and you know, as we try to do, you know, provide enough insight with the right amount of time.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, I do believe that you can sign up for notifications in the NSRR for the ACS program and monitor, you know, whatever updates they have within the NSRR as well.
So can I ask a question back to just how these you guys might mitigate, or how you guys tend to control the organizational accounts? And I asked this, you know, because like I support NASA and have an account for NASA, but there's also plenty of other groups within NASA that completely different that are, I'm sure, registering under NASA emails as well. So other than NASA email, like how do you know what the account, like you're not just going to have, NASA is not going to be able to just have one NASA account. Does the question make sense?
And I'm sorry, is that you, Waldo?
Yeah, so I believe you're asking, this is a evolving policy and process that we're trying to implement based, as I said, our need to optimize the efficiency of operations. So we're working through this. For large consumers, organizations such as NASA, it's at some particular point we may interface with you individually and try to arrive at best practices, or as we work with large organizations one-to-one, we'll publish those in community forums. And we would like this to be a collaborative effort, as we're all focused on the same goal, keeping SCDS data available and flowing freely to the public. So it's an evolving program or campaign.
And if I can add to that, Sean, so our desire, right, is that NASA would come up with a way to essentially, consume the data and then come up with a mechanism to distribute it within NASA. And as was briefed earlier, and to what Waldo just said, one of our key drivers is to keep cost at a reasonable level. Every single year we go and have to justify why why our costs continue to go up and go up and go up. And our goal is really to say that we are doing everything we possibly can to mitigate that continued increase in cost, so that we do continue to get funding to support having SCDS to be able to provide that information. So, I agree. It would be fantastic if we could just share the data with everybody who wanted it all the time, but we're doing what we can to try to make sure that we can continue to provide this service, because we don't want it to go away. We know how valuable it is.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. And I mean, currently, like through the DIP project, I mean, we have one set of connections and we bring it in and we repeat it to all kinds of environments so that we don't have to set up multiple. Right. But I know there's other groups within NASA, other divisions, other facilities that make connections that, I have no awareness of. So I just want to make sure like nobody just says, oh, we're going to terminate this NASA connection because they've got, there's a lot of connections that these divisions aren't even aware the other divisions have a connection.
Right. And to what Waldo said too, I do think, certainly a situation where having a meeting and getting together and understanding what exactly that looks like for you in particular, and coming up with a way to make sure that we don't got everything but one in the first place, but a way to do it efficiently.
Right. Appreciate it.
And this is an opportunity for us also to activate community forum surrounding around SCDS and data. And John, maybe reaching out to you and utilizing your organizational complexity, some of the solutions you put in place, and exposing that to the general community will enable creative solutions and help address this, in a collective way.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Be happy to share what we're doing if others be interested.
Great. Thank you.
We had several more questions in the chat. I want to ensure that we responded to appropriately before anyone dropped off the call. So there's a question from Michael Rice about checking, verifying that our subscriptions are using compression. I just want to ensure we answered your question, Michael.
So yeah, I was just curious. I don't remember when I created this particular subscription. It might have been a year ago, it might have been before April 2022, but can we use the portal to check to see whether or not our subscriptions are being compressed, just so we can make sure we're compliant and don't need to redo our subscription?
Not from the user interface. In the portal currently, there is not a way to tell. But in your connection, I'm sure you can print out your connection settings and it would probably tell you.
Okay, I'll dig into it.
We will also be reaching out to users who are currently uncompressed and hopefully transition those legacy users over to compression. So if you're worried about that, if you do have uncompressed data, we will be reaching out eventually.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you for that. And I apologize. I'm just sort of working backwards to make sure we hit the last few questions. Tom Neer's question about SCDS targeting migration of the cloud platform, and specifically if there's anything they should start planning for in addition to the changes announced today, coming from the AIM FNS point of view. Tom, I wanted to ensure we addressed your question.
Yeah, just for our clients, we just want to make sure that there's no downtime. So just being proactive, but you've answered it. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. No, wonderful. Appreciate the questions. For everyone on the call, we have about 150 participants, and now's the perfect time for any additional questions. We have SWIM PM Kristen Kropf, SCDS lead Waldo Ford, as well as some of the technical team. So now is the perfect time to ask those burning questions about this Swift Portal V4 update and anything else coming soon.
I see one more in the meeting chat. So SCDS does not currently provide, this is Todd Pittman, SCDS does not usually provide TFMS request reply functionality. And yeah, Kristen, I think you need to talk to it. It says SCDS is only for non-NAS impacting applications, but wouldn't the TFDM feed, TTP and TFCS, which will be used by airlines to interact with TFDM, be considered NAS impacting?
Yes, so exactly what Elizabeth said. So the bidirectional, that interaction with TFDM will have to go through NEMS. That's the only capability that at this point allows that bidirectional. And one of the things, we do have a single feed right now. I believe it's the TTP feed, I believe, that will continue to be available on SCDS, but it will only be available to CDM members. So that said, nothing changes. Still, SCDS is for non-NAS impacting use, but there will be a single CDM feed that's available on SCDS at the moment. And for anything that is NAS impacting, still remains, would have to go through the NESG.
All righty. Just scrolling through, making sure we didn't miss anyone else's question.
There's one more. I think this one goes to Kristen or Waldo. Will we continue having AMQP support after the compression changes take effect?
Waldo, do you want to take that?
So as one of the policies stated that that the authorized connection method for contacting connection to SCDS will be JMS messaging or JMS. There will be exceptions on a case by case basis, and there'll be more along operational usage. So, for instance, a student who has a project and needs to access SCDS data immediately, right, may not have the time to learn another programming language, so they may make a request for a limited period of time. But if you're an organization and you have the technical capability, we may deny that and ask that you use your technical resources to contact in a the most operationally cost-effective manner. So there's going to be a general push that JMS will be the only authorized connection method, but there will be the opportunity for exceptions.
There's another question about when ESCS will be available.
Would you like to address that, Kristen?
Sure. So ESCS in its proper name of ESCS will actually not be rolled out. And that is for multiple reasons, but one of the main reasons is with the, I'm sure, you may or may not have heard of our award to Verizon and Saab for the FENS contract, which is the contract that's replacing the FTI contract. With that, actually, all of your current swim infrastructure to include, NEMS and the connection through NESG, as well as SCDS will be now we're actively working to come up with a schedule of when we will be transitioning, and that'll be provided by the new FENS vendor. That said, the IMS, which we're calling IMSC, which will be essentially, there's going to be an external portal similar to what SCDS is. We're still in the final design phases of all of this, but that ESCS functionality will be provided there. And the exact timing of that is, I cannot give you a exact date right now, but one of the main reasons why we did not roll out with the SCS is because it's very close to when ESCS was going to be available. So we will soon be able to, let you know the plan dates for when that rollout will be, but not too far in the future.
Wasim, can you clarify what you mean by JMS feeds firewall friendly? For example, SOX compliant.
Hi, yes. So the JMS feeds, the Solus feeds that come over are, from a normal network, you can just read them. But if you're on a secure network or and nowadays, everyone's cyber secure, right? So if you're behind any sort of firewall, then those JMS feeds do not come over, right? So what we've had to do is to establish bastion service off our normal networks, bring it in, and then do the fan out to everybody else who needs it. But, going forward, it would be great if the JMS was SOX firewall compliant. Does that help?
Yeah, we'll take an action to take a look at that. But yeah, that's up to Waldo. I'll let you take that off because that's I guess feature enhancement.
Yeah, I mean, if you're behind a firewall, then it's problematic. If you're not, then if you're on the open internet, then it just works, right? But many people are behind firewalls, so they have to come up with some acrobatics to get access to the data. but the big picture is we are doing the fan out, okay? And going back to compression, I think the compression started a year ago or a year and a half ago, and I don't think we've had an issue. So just this. Thank
I
you.
don't think there's going to be a lot that can be done there unless they switch completely different broker setup, though, because most of the firewalls I've dealt with, the problem is just that it's a non-standard port. So having to deal with that, and then if you move it to like a standard port, then it's going to think it's HTTP traffic, which is not. So
No, that's fair. That's fair. But there is a standard for SOX compliant, which is firewall compliance. And this particular standard that was being used for JMS is not SOX compliant. Right. So
Is
it
there
may have
a,
predated. Yeah. Yeah, just something, you know, just raising it.
do you have some link about this compliance? This, you know, is this a standard SOX compliance?
Actually, I have a lot. I can take it offline and give you that data, but just to go through normal compliance and work with our IT organizations and our security organizations takes like months and months and months, right? And if it's compliant for firewalls, it's pretty easy to access. If not, you know, you have to go through the exception cycle. And I can't believe I'm the only one who's bringing that up. So.
I do thank you for bringing it to the attention. I think we take an action item to investigate that further, but if you can contact, I guess if you could reach out to the team and provide any information you have, we can take a closer look at that in the near future.
Yeah, I'll take an action. Who should I send it to?
You can send it to me actually, and I'll put my, well, at the end of the slide, my I'll publish my email address to everyone. If there's any information like to forward or have us be made aware of, given your own particular, you know, your specific situation, please address it to me, and we'll have the team take a look at it and start to address this more systematically. All right.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's a question about the sorry, estimated size of the compressed files for the data feeds. Are there variations in file sizes based on the frequency? I don't think we have that information, right? Waldo and Kristen, that would have to come from the specific programs that produce this data.
Correct. Yeah, I would think it would be, you know, based on what the actual, you know, feed is. Obviously, they vary.
So just a data point that may help. I mean, we saw basically a 10 to 1 reduction when we went from the uncompressed to compressed as far as the total volume of data that we were consuming. In terms of message sizes.
Good information, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think there's a Lisa Kerr. Have your public sources in GitHub been updated to align with compression requirements? Elizabeth, can you address?
Yes, they have
that?
been. But I would recommend always, I mean, GitHub is a great place to download the consumer test Jumpstart kit, but I would recommend always going through the Jumpstart kit that's advertised on your subscription in the Jumpstart tab in Portal.
Right. So if you use that basic connection client, all your compression needs will be met.
All right, appreciate Lisa sharing the GitHub link. And we have a comment, GitHub hasn't been updated since May 2021. We could take an action just to go verify, but that should be the latest and greatest there.
So that is the NEMS Jumpstart kit, not the Swift Portal Jumpstart kit. don't know, Marcelo, I heard you earlier, should support compression either way, right?
Yes, the NEMS one is using the latest Solus libraries, and that's really all you need to support getting messages compressed.
All righty. It
Elizabeth,
appears.
do you have do you have the access to the publicly facing SCDS connection kit that you might be able to place in the chat?
Yes, I'm doing that right now.
Okay, thank you.
While Elizabeth is taking care of that, I'll make one more post. Any other questions? Now is a great time. Got all the right folks on the line. And we just got one that came in from Nuno Kovas. Do the ingress egress data rates displayed in the Swift portal reflect compressed or uncompressed data?
Is anyone in the SCDS technical side of the team able to answer that, address that immediately?
If not, we'll take an action. We'll get an answer. We could maybe create a new slide and post some of the questions and answers there. So we'll take an action to get an answer to your question, Nuno.
All right.
Excellent, thanks.
And this will be a great opportunity. I'm glad that we've had this conversation. It's sparked a lot of technical questions, and there are lots of different points of views and individual cases. There's an opportunity to utilize the community forum, more effective way to share information among proponents. So we'll try to ramp that up in the next coming, in the near future, I should say.
And we did have one more question from Michael Rice with respect to SOCs, with Solus libraries being used. It appears as though v10.21.0 supports SOCs 5 compliance. Elizabeth, are you aware of what version?
I can look up that right now, but I am not really familiar with SOCs and what he was describing. So we definitely need to do some homework on our side.
Great. So we'll just take this information that you provided, Michael, actually. Thank you.
Right.
Included in that.
So our jump circuit is using Solus version 10.21.0.
So that is the one that Michael suggested.
Right. Mm-hmm.
A Kramer, appreciate the comment and suggestion for Slack. I know FA is particular about certain software, so that's why we have the community forum as a sort of extension of the Swift portal. And I'll echo what Waldo shared. You know, that's our best venue for capturing feedback, comments, and you know, really fostering a community to help you all engage with one another, share questions and feedback. So I'll put the link in there just a moment.
All right, if no more questions, I can move on to this last slide here. So on this last slide has the contact information of our Swift portal lead, Waldo Ford, and our SCDS help desk email. Like mentioned before, we will be sending these slides out. So if you guys have any more questions or anything you would like to say, you can definitely reach out.
Thank you, Uzair. Yep. As I dropped a note earlier in the chat, our users forum slides are always posted on the users forum website. At the bottom, you'll be able to click through and download the files. Just give us a couple days to make any updates and get the file posted. In addition, we recorded this meeting, so we're going to be working to upload a link of where this recording can be reached in the event you'd like to go back and dive into any particular questions or slides that were discussed. And lastly, I'll mention again, just put in the link for the community forum discussion page. And this is a great area to be dialed into, to keep an eye out for upcoming news announcements about new releases or changes, upcoming events like another users forum or Swift meeting, and really all things swim and swim data. So please be sure to bookmark it, take a look at it. And as always, like Uzair said, don't hesitate to reach out to us with any questions or comments. With that, we'll pause and see if there are any additional questions.
Well, just before the questions, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning into this users forum and for the either technical data or information that's been shared as we try to move along this collaborative, this new operational efficiency. We look forward to a collaborative approach, and we thank those initial steps that were presented in this forum. Look forward to working with everyone and to utilize the community forum to share for us all to help get through this transitional period.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Waldo. And again, I'll say last call for questions. Otherwise, again, thank you everyone for participating in the Swim Users Forum this afternoon, and keep an eye out for the Swim Users Forum website, as well as the community forum section of the Swift portal for updates.
Thanks, Mark.
And thank you all for the wonderful, thoughtful questions. You know, that's what this meeting was all about. So take care. Don't hesitate to reach out with any follow-ups.